Well, I'm responding to S0295 alive in this particular recording, I think. It occurs to me, being an economist, the flaw of our economic analysis, the fundamental fault in our mode of analysis is that we can reason in situations of certainty about what the menu is and what the outcomes will be when we make a choice. But if the choice has certain uncertainty, if the choice has uncertainty about it, we're not sure whether, item 3 is vegetarian or not. And we're not absolutely sure whether we want to be entirely vegetarian today or not. And actually we're not certain that even if we order it, that's what's going to come. Or if we'll even be alive by the time they serve it. There's a finite probability that I won't be. And then I start to make an optimal decision. How? Well, let's reduce the uncertainty to some sort of conceptual situation of certainty. Let's suppose that there's a probability distribution of each of these outcomes. And therefore we can choose probabilistically what is the best, most likely a choice to make. And the person who's not an economist, of course, says, meaning, I have no idea what you're talking about. It doesn't sound feasible to me, even if it is to you. But my goodness, you're a professional. Perhaps you're right. And I charge you for my consultation. So we do a cost-benefit analysis on whether this bypass to this town is an economic proposition or not. Well, we list the benefits and we list the costs, and we're actually not certain of the costs. So we have to use today's prices, or, conjecture. Perhaps labour might go up by 10% during the course of the conceived time frame in which we're going to start actually doing this project, if you accept it. And it's going to save this amount of travelling time for, on average, the sort of traffic we get along there at the minute. But of course, the traffic we're going to get along this road when it actually comes, we're not sure what. But compared to what that traffic is doing in mileage at present, and then of course the time you save, well, the value of that in market terms, well, that's tricky. That depends on what your opportunity cost is. And they're all individuals on the highway, aren't they? Let's assume we value the time saved in total. In total? You're adding different people's time together that they're saving. Yeah. And let's assume that the opportunity cost to that average type person is, well, shall we say half the average wage? Or shall we say half the minimum average wage? Or shall we not say half at all? How about 3/4? Right, having decided on that, we're in fairyland, aren't we? And anyway, when I finish my analysis and I send you my report, which is pages long and tells you the justification for my, I might give you all a blurb on the justification for the way my analysis actually comes to its conclusions, or I may just fudge the issue because you won't follow anyway, you're not an economist. So I just send you my report, which nonetheless I make sure is extremely long and glossy and got lots of diagrams and photos of and etc., and what the other options were that we considered. And our fee is 4.5 million, okay? Well, I mean, it's taken a lot of time, a lot of research, and we're costly guys. I mean, we're not minimum wage rate ourselves, you know. We charge quite a lot per hour. And if you don't pay that, well, you don't get this sort of level of expertise, do you? And when I've had enough of this, I retired my ivory towered university, which is, I don't know, it's not concrete and glass now, is it? What are universities made of these days? They're on the internet, aren't they? They're not really anywhere. They're in the cloud. Well, I retired to my cloud anyway. And, well, the salary is a nice pension compared to what I was earning. Not bad, given I'm held in such awe and respect now. I mean, that's all I need. Thank you. You see, we're all alive, and you have to make a decision. And we're optimizing too. We got all sorts of strategies for playing safe and so on, until, of course, something transpires and, oh, that wasn't so safe. And we need some other creative solution. We are forced to be creative in every time period. And to the extent we ignore that, we find we are dead, that we've not kept up with the changing circumstances, and we're suffering accordingly. And even our most successful organizations wither and fade away. You may look like my dad, in spite of being manager of a stockbroker's, invest his own wealth in Lancashire cotton as he ploughed on through the middle of the 20th century. And he got quite a good return because, of course, Lancashire cotton were being very rational in contracting their business according to the changing, reducing market demands. But in the end, you can't stay in Lancashire cotton. It won't exist. It will be a thing of the past. You've got to move out into something else. From my research on decision-making in uncertainty and in investment and portfolio analysis, which sounds very impressive, but, you know, stocks and shares, all right? Well, he made the fatal mistake of not really being diversified enough and not changing that mix as time progressed. There is no safety or certainty in uncertainty. And if I might switch back dramatically to the spiritual, less humorous approach to things, it is our dilemma and why we need God. And we know we need God. It's just that it doesn't seem to be on the menu here. So, like good economists, we say, well, let's assume God exists. Huh? Oh. Do we gain anything by this God being benevolent towards us? No. Well, let's assume that he's not then. Ah, right. How should we now act? Oh, well, all our decision-making has an eye now towards this wonderful God who is going to prepare a wonderful future for us, presumably if we fulfill certain conditions. What are they likely to be if he's a wonderful God that loves us? Ah, well, and we roll off the list. And the decisions that result from this assumption seem to be, in many ways, radically different to what the rest of the world has been running. But we look around the market as an economist and we find that other economic consultancy firms that are doing well seem to follow this sort of assumption. Oh, well, let's go for that then, shall we? Now, if we survive, if we continue to survive in the marketplace, in some sense we got it right, fortuitously or otherwise, that's good. And we tell people this was the way to go to be a good economist, or a good theologian, or a saint. If we don't survive, we're not around to argue the case that it doesn't necessarily work. The onlooker then looks at survivors, because the ones that have died are no longer present to look at, and gets the impression that survivors are going the right way. Perhaps their fee is worth paying. Could be. And other would-be budding consultants that join the field go the same way too, for obvious reasons. Now, you may say to me, but this may not work. We don't know we're right, do we? The answer is no, we don't. We're in a world of uncertainty. But we do know these have survived, and we do know we're surviving at the minute, thinking and analysing in this way. Are you going to go for something other than that? No, I suppose not. The fact that the thing is working doesn't prove that in some sense it will always work. Only that it is working. And that's looking more hopeful than all the alternatives that didn't work. And this is what we mean by the pursuit of truth in science and rationality in a universe of uncertainty. We have a theory that at present seems to bring in the goods, explains much of what we need to explain better than any other theory, so we're following it. And if we get too many knocks and bruises, we look all the harder round for a better theory and switch accordingly, tentatively. Or some people try it and seem to do well, better than us. So we come back to the rationality of taste and see. Does assuming God is my dad and the habit of whatsoever's good and lovely, thinking upon these things, result in what I'm looking for? A happiness and an assurance, hope, joy and peace? Or does it quickly run into amazing problems and disasters? You'll know which way to go, won't you? And after a while, if going this way does indeed bring in joy, peace, hope, happiness, etc., 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 wisdom, understanding, compassion, love, fulfillment, blessing, you will feel more assured that you're on the right path. And that is all we can say. If you translate that to certainty, you are likely to make a mistake. If you choose something other than that, then you will be expecting not to do so well. That doesn't make sense. We are fortunate then in that we can do no other. And we are creatively living to do what we're doing, choosing what we think might be best, and transpires to bring in the goods. You know what you value. Does doing this bring in more of what you value than the other alternatives that the world seems to be practicing? Choose you this day and every day whom you will serve. Bless you, and you are blessed. Thank you, Dad. You see, when I was at university, my close friend who was lecturer, Norman Bromberger from South Africa, he said, "You're going to be an economist?" I said, "Well, your company accepted, of course, because you're my friend, but I don't see that economists are really very happy, successful people. I'm not sure as I want their sort of life, the way they're living." You know, I was looking at academic economists, wasn't I? They're the only ones I met at university. I thought, no, I don't see this as a wonderful life. And he said, "No, agree." I mean, subsequently, his wife divorced him, and he went back to South Africa. I think he did all right. He became an associate professor and so on. But, you know, yeah. So do be careful. You know, do you want the pastor's life? Is that your idea of happiness, joy, and the way to go? Does being martyred for Christ really grab you? I'm thinking of the life of Brian now. Possibly not. Know thyself. What are your values? What's going to be the outcome of these values? Find out, preferably by study and listening to good advice. But if you can't do it that way, go it for all it's worth and find out. But be ready to change tracks as soon as you can. When you find it's going the wrong way, don't get so addicted to the wrong way that you can't get out. You have to worship your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Find out quickly where you need to modify your view of what your God really needs to be. And you'll do well. Bless you. But if you try to follow other people's values, despite the fact that when you look at the way they're living, that's not the way you find satisfying, then you are wasting your time. Even if I put you in heaven, you will be so discontent, you will be drawn back to this universe and something like this world to sort yourself out. So you should sort yourself out now. Worship your God, the personification of your values, with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and be very careful as you tread. Bless you. You are alive. You are dealing with uncertainty, and because of uncertainty, you have this freedom to pursue what you truly value at heart. But please be careful, because I love you. And I want you to be truly, eternally blessed. Thank you, Dad.